For the past few months, I've been able to adjust to my job. My delivery partner was a major stabilizing factor. It was hard to be stressed out about other coworkers looking at me if I was a meal, when Max was literally a big puppy I could spend my work hours with. Sure, I did lose an arm, and it had to be replaced with one that was slowly starting to ache all day, but it was worth trading an arm to keep Max around. I'd even hold much of a grudge against the creature that made me cut my arm off in the first place. So far, I did not overly regret being forced into my dangerous jobs of delivering mail to monsters. I came into work feeling ready to get going for a change. I would get texts of door locations to go to, and swipe my card to get inside what was called a zero room. They looked like an empty office with a fold-out table in the middle and a receptionist. I learned that the receptionists were one of Max's many stepsisters. I've yet to learn all of their names or even just knew how many he had. Most were pretty frosty personality-wise, but warmed up a little when I slid them a pack or two of gum. They were in charge of giving us the package and details of our delivery jobs. Max was already inside the room and smiled at me when he saw me walk in. He had large dog ears that he yet to fully grow into. If it wasn't for his mouth full of sharp teeth, his smile would be charming. "We get to have a good job today," he told me, excited and unable to hide his wagging tail. Max always said we had a good job. The last one, we nearly died of heat stroke waiting on the side of a desert highway, waiting for a large slug-like creature to show up and pick up its package. That was a rough one. I made Max spit out so many small lizards he'd try eating the moment I turned my back. After doing the exchange, Max's sister gestured towards the 6 tote bags filled with letters and packages on the floor. My heart sank. It would take forever to go out and deliver these. Normally, we did only a trip per package. "It's all going to the same place," Celine told me while reading my expression. At least I was fairly sure that receptionist was Celine. "We get to go see all the girls today," Max explained and started to pick up the totes to hang off his shoulders. He was way shorter than me by a little, but very strong. I could only carry 2 of the totes, my bad shoulder unable to support the weight of a third. Max easily took it and carried the rest. I still felt bad that I had to make him do extra work at the time, and after all these months couldn't help out more. Max didn't even notice my inner turmoil. He gave his sister a wave and I followed him out the door, being weighed down. He needed to keep stopping to wait for me to catch up. He knew better to take over and let me do my best trying to carry the heavy bags. The sun was setting and we walked towards a building that, when I saw the sign, I paused a little confused. Surely we weren't dropping off all this mail at a strip joint? My face red from embarrassment at the weight of the bags. I tried to catch up to Max. I didn't make it in time. He knocked on the back door of the building and was led inside. Seconds before I reached the door, I heard shrieking screams. I was so worried Max was walking into something he shouldn't have. I wasn't thinking. I just barged into the back door and into one of the weirdest scenes of my life. The door opened into an employee dressing area. It felt like it was floor planning at Max. Someone walking inside could see the girls getting ready. Max was surrounded by women of all different species and all different stages of undress. My face turned completely red and I did my best to not look at anything I felt like I was not meant to see. Until that moment, Max never really showed any interest in girls before. He treated everyone with the same bright and kind bubbly personality. So I was shocked seeing him in the middle of the women looking like he was very much enjoying himself, as they all spoke in a mixture of languages. Then I realized he wasn't enjoying himself because of a lot of attractive girls fawning over him. He was smiling away and wagging his tail because of a bunch of people were petting his head and touching his paw like hands. I felt jealous. For months, I wanted to touch the soft paws on Max's hands, but didn't, fearing I would be dragged into a work sensitivity training program. I suffered being unable to touch the beans, and all these girls were just going at it. I knew that it would take a while for them to get all settled down, and I stepped aside trying to find a spot to put the tote bags to be sorted through later. When I looked up, I was staring at a face I never thought I would see again. We both stared at each other, frozen, the sounds of all the girls chattering around us. "Vicky?" I asked finally. She came towards me, looking like she was about to rip me to pieces. Before she can reach me, a different woman came over between us. She was tall and had a slit mouth that went from ear to ear. Aside from that, she was rather pretty. Oh, I've heard of a human that was delivering mail. Vixen, do you know it? You talk to humans. The woman asked, mouth in a wide smile. We talked a few times on a dating site, but never met. Right, Toby? We never met. Right? Vicky's tone was very clear on what she wanted me to say. I nodded, a little nervous on what would happen if I said otherwise. Vicky was the reason why I got my job. She was a monster that would eat men when she went on dates with. We met through a dating site, but I was spared. She could only eat certain types of men, it seemed. She'd still try to kill me, but I was lucky enough to literally run into the Silver King. Sure, she tried to eat me, but I've forgiven her for that. If I held a grudge against everything that I've tried, I wouldn't have any friends left. Vera, why don't you help Max get the mail out to everyone? Vicky suggested. The tall woman smiled and nodded. She pushed her way through the crowd and soon the girls were getting back on task. Max was still in the middle getting mail together and making them sign a sheet once he handed them their packages. He was shattering in different languages I'd never heard him use before. Vicky and myself stood awkwardly off to the side. I'm kinda useless here, huh? I commented, watching Max work. Mostly, yeah, but I think it's alright. Max had been delivering our mail for years. He's ideal because he's friendly and knows a lot of languages. But he's always switching out partners. His personality is so close to a human, it's so off-putting to creatures of the night. It's good to see that he's working with you. Vicky told me, looking as awkward as I felt. I had no idea Max switched partners so often. Here I thought everyone loved him. It made sense. Him and Rufus, his father, were much different than all the creatures I've come across so far. At first, Vicky felt like she was similar to them, but then she chased me through the woods trying to kill me. Max came over to retrieve the last bags and took my hand. Come meet all the girls! I was dragged forwards and shoved into the same spot Max was before. I had a gaggle of supernatural females prodding me and pinching my cheeks. It wasn't entirely unpleasant. Max was trying to introduce me to them all, but some didn't have human names. In the futures, I may remember how their names sounded, but I would find it impossible to pronounce. At least they were friendly and only looked as if they were a few seconds away from taking a bite out of me. A man came pinky into the room and said something I didn't understand. The girls started to disperse to get fully dressed. I got in some quick kisses on my cheeks, but it felt as if it was in the same way you would kiss a cute animal. In the chaos, Vicky was getting her mail from Max. Do you work here? I asked her, and Vicky stared daggers at me. Do I look like I work here? She hissed. I felt my blood turn cold knowing I asked the wrong question. Below are apartments for female creatures only. I live here, doofus. She was being a bit grumpy with me. I imagined I would be the last person she would ever want to see again, considering how our date ended. Unable to read the room, Max came in with a save. Let's all go out on a date. We both did a double take at his suggestion. Max didn't know a lot about human culture, but I thought he knew what a date was. Do you mean you want us all to go out for dinner? Vicky corrected. Yeah, you told me about a place that makes breakfast stuff all day the last time I brought mail. I never had breakfast before, he said, his curved tail wagging, showing how excited he was over the idea. That's just going out for dinner, Max. It's not a date. I told him, but he even faltered in his logic. People who like each other, going out is a date. And we all like each other, so let's go. He took out his hands and started to drag us towards the door. Normally, we would check back into the 0 room to say we completed a job. Sometimes we would get a few more jobs to do, and sometimes we could just head home. I started to think Max got away with a lot of things because his entire family worked for the mail company, and because he was cute. That helped a lot. I didn't want to go out with this guy I was meeting tonight anyway. I'll send him a message canceling on him and Toby can pay for my dinner," Vicky said as if she wasn't already planning on going with us the moment Max suggested. Max didn't have any human currency, so I was glad my job at least paid well. The all-day breakfast diner was a quick walk away. It must do good business being surrounded by bars so the drunks could get at least some greasy eggs before heading home. It was pretty empty when we arrived. Max sat next to me in the booth and Vicky was across from us. She was texting someone and had her head down when the waitress came by with the menus. I've been working with Max for a few months, and yet I've never gotten a clear answer about how other people saw him. He did have dog features. Could humans see his ears and just assume they were fake? Or did they see him as a normal person? I had a lot of questions, but Vicky put her phone down. I was suddenly unable to speak. She was a very pretty girl. Long red hair she styled in from flowing waves from the last time I seen her. When she smiled, she had hints of dimples, and her clothing always seemed to fit in just the right way. Almost any guy could be easily lured in by her looks. She was the best looking girl I've ever spent time with, but I felt no attraction towards her. I remember what she truly looked like. Every time I looked at her, I felt the memory of her hot breath on the back of my neck when she was about to crush me with her massive jaws. Max didn't notice how tense I was or how awkward the air turned. He reached over and took a hold of one of the small syrup jugs and opened it a few times. He snickered. There was two of them, and the spout looked like a bird's face. "These look like chook jugs," he said, and opening and closing the jug. "Oh, they really do." Vicky reached over and started to do the same. I had no idea what they were talking about, but they looked like they were enjoying an inside joke. In a squawking voice she spoke, while making the jug look like it was talking. "The 1,000-year pitch war. Never heard of it. Never start of it." Her and Max cackled at something. I would never really understand without at least a few hundred years of supernatural creature history for context. They both started to squawk and talk about the war I had no idea about before I needed to get them settled down. "Alright, you two, pick out what you want. Max, you can try anything you like," I told him, full well knowing I might regret those words. Max looked at me, eyes shining, and started to go over a menu we started sharing. He would read something out loud and ask me about it. There were a few things Max couldn't eat, like grapes or onions, so I needed to keep an eye on what human foods he ordered. He was reading the menu just fine, and I was impressed by the fact that English wasn't his first language. He must be pretty smart if he could learn so many, even if you prove otherwise sometimes. When we ordered, Max pointed out what he wanted and I told the waitress. Vicky ordered 2 large meal combos and our waitress raised an eyebrow over the sheer amount of food. Regardless, she wrote everything down and was on her way. "So, Toby, what have you been up to?" Vicky asked and sipped on a coffee she ordered. I started to tell her of everything that happened so far with my new job with Max, helping me with some of the details. She, like most people, gave me a dirty look when she found out I was the one who was apparently responsible for Rufus losing a leg and being out of the field for a while. Apparently, he was very popular and a few creatures wanted some payback. I needed to be careful of where I show my face in the future. When our food arrived, it nearly didn't all fit onto the table. I only ordered some fried eggs, bacon, and toast. I was done eating way before the other two. Vicky was good at taking over my job and making sure Max didn't eat some grapes that had been mixed in with his fresh other fruit. When I was finished eating, I snatched away from some home fries that was mixed together with some onions. The potatoes were big enough to separate and give back to Max, who was waffling fries into his face and didn't even notice our rescue efforts. Oddly enough, after chatting with Vicky, my wariness of her eased. I thought it would take more time, no longer to be so afraid of her. I still wasn't attracted to her, but I no longer felt the urge to bolt whenever I saw her smiling. I really did forgive her, but my body refused to want to stay around for something I knew to be a predator. Overall, it was a nice dinner out and almost worth the hit to my bank account. Somehow, they both got through the mountain of food. We went up to the front to pay, and I left a good tip, feeling sorry for whoever needed to collect all of our dishes. "I'm going to the bathroom," Max announced. Okay, but only for 5 minutes, I told him. Vicky gave me a wondering look as to why I was limiting his washroom break time. He likes to stick his head under those hand dryers. If I don't tell him a time limit, he'll do it for hours. She nodded, understanding how Max can be. We left to wait outside for him. Vicky was getting some text, so she was looking at her phone while she spoke to me. Have you been donating blood recently? She asked. It was a bit of an odd question out of the blue. I stood looking at her, wondering why she would ask. I did in fact donate some in the past few days. After the incident where I lost my arm and the mailing company replaced it, I was outed as still being a virgin. My flesh and blood are highly coveted by the creatures of the night. By eating it or by drinking it, they can become stronger, or so I've heard. And I heard it could be used to heal some of my coworkers when they get harmed in the fields. I really didn't mind donating to help out, so I started to do it as much as I was able to. Yes, how did you know? I asked her, wondering if Max told her and if I wasn't paying attention. A friend of mine was attacked by hunters and nearly died. She's never harmed a human before, but you know, hunters. They'll kill anything not human. Anyway, your blood saved her. She might even be able to grow her horns back. I think she isn't the only one you saved, and I wasn't sure if anyone thanked you yet. She was sounding so kind and honest, I didn't know how to deal with it. I felt my face flush and looked away from her embarrassed. I didn't feel as if I'd done anything worthy of being praised for. Anyone in my position would have done the same. I knew donating my blood was going to help, but never thought of just how much before. Without warning, Vicky put her phone back into her pocket and leaned over to kiss my cheek. I froze, face red. I shouldn't have been so shocked before the whole thing of trying to eat me. Vicky and I got along just fine. She was a nice person. I still wouldn't date her though. God, you're such a... Vicky didn't finish whatever she was going to say to tease me. A man around our age I didn't recognize got out of his car and was walking towards us in a rage. Vicky knew him and her face twisted in a snarl. He stopped a few steps in front of us and so angry he was out of breath. I knew Vicky could handle it, but I still stood between her and the newcomer. You bitch! After everything, you go behind my back and sleep around with this guy? He's not even that good looking. The man spat. I wasn't hurt by his comment. I knew I wasn't a catch, and the monsters I worked alongside were kind enough not to say so. And just because you buy me shit I never asked doesn't mean you're entitled to me or my time. I'm not sleeping around with Toby. He's a friend, you extreme dumbass. She shot back, getting out in front of me, ready to throw down if needed. At first, I thought I would need to save this guy from her, until he angrily brought out a gun and pointed it at the both of us. Even after months of being around monsters, the sight of a gun made me still cold. Because my job was dangerous, we received a magic uniform that could stop claws and bullets. I was wearing mine, still sort of being on the job, but the uniforms only protected what they covered. If he shot me in the face, it was all over. Vicky stopped talking and looked over at me, fear in her eyes. Drop your phones and get into the car. Now. His tone gave no room for arguments. I took my phone, covered it in the pink case I received for work, and dropped it to the ground. I winced as if it bounced away. Vicky did the same. She could have ripped this guy apart, but I know creatures of the night were bound by certain rules when it came to killing humans. She either didn't want to attack him in a public place, or for some reason couldn't fight back at all. Max would be useful to have around. It was already way past 5 minutes. If I live, I might have to be angry with him. We both listened to the man and was led to his car. He made Vicky get into the front and I sat in the back. My mind was racing, thinking of something to do. I needed to wait until he stopped the car to fight back. I didn't want to endanger Vicky by risking an accident by attacking the man while he drove. I flexed and gripped my left hand, feeling pain shoot through my entire forearm as I gripped my hand too tightly. The replacement arm was pretty weak, and the new pain I couldn't do much with it. I had no confidence in myself and only prayed Vicky had a plan, or that Max noticed us missing and soon came to our rescue. I doubted the second option. We drove in silence for a while. He pulled into a very normal looking suburb and forced us inside a house. The entire time he kept a gun on Vicky and had one of her arms to his hands. I walked in front, opening the door as he told me, fearing he would hurt her if I didn't do something. He only clearly planned on taking Vicky and was stressed out by having to deal with the second person. When we got to the front door, I couldn't take it any longer. I grabbed a glass bowl off the table by the front door, getting ready to use it as a weapon as the keys and spare change inside it went flying. I swung around aiming for his face and got foreseeable results. He was much faster and slammed the handgun in my nose. I dropped the bowl and it breaking into 1,000 pieces onto the ground. He gave my stomach a kick that didn't hurt but still knocked me over. I was about to get up to keep fighting when I saw Vicky's expression. She was silently pleading for me to stay down. I did for her. My face was a massive throbbing pain and my nose bleeding. Our kidnapper wasted no time and nearly dragged us both down into his basement. I let him shove me into the chair and didn't struggle when he tied my hands behind my back and my ankles together. I felt sick looking around his basement. It was a creep stream. A mattress on the floor with blankets scattered around. He had stacks of blank DVD cases piled around the room and a computer on the floor next to the mattress. It smelled and it looked like he lived down here. He only had zip ties left to keep Vicky in check. Securing her wrists, he gave us a few threats before heading up the stairs for whatever reason. "What's the plan?" I whispered over to her, trying to get struggle free. Are you going to eat him or something?" She gave me a disgusted look. I didn't blame her. Who would ever want to be in the same room as that guy, let alone eat him? "I can't eat or kill men who haven't done anything wrong. This piece of human waste is a virgin. Unlike you, he's very bitter about it. It's only a matter of time before he snapped like this. I have no idea why he dragged you along." She replied, not bothering to whisper. "Wait, so what are you gonna do? I can't win against him with a bad arm. Can't you defend yourself?" "Bad arm? They didn't replace it with something good? What a ripoff. And no, I can't. I'm not a human, and my self-defense is killing. I guess we can just let him do something to me so I can bite his head off." I was nearly sick at that thought. It wasn't just the idea of Vicky having to allow the guy to put his hands on her in any way, but the casual way she said it. I suddenly wonder how many times she's been in this situation, where she lured in dangerous men who hadn't done anything yet so she can let herself be the scapegoat, so she can punish them based on her rules. I shook my head, trying to keep my dinner to stay down. No matter what happened, that was not an option. "No, we're not letting this guy touch you. I'll bite out his throat if I need to." I tried to sound as tough as a guy tied down could. "Toby, he'll kill you. Why bother risking your life when we can go with the easier option?" "The easier option isn't the right one. Risking my life is well worth you not having to go through something like that." I stared at her. Her expression turned into a confused one. She looked at me as if I was crazy. In her eyes, I was. This was how she lived her life, regardless of how she felt about it. "Are you white knighting me?" she asked, eyebrows still raised. "What? No, maybe? But I don't mean like that. You're my friend and I don't want anything to happen to you." Her expression changed as we heard our kidnapper make a noise above us. He was going to come back any minute, and if I didn't officially have a plan, I was talking a big game but didn't have any kind of power to back it up. I really wish I didn't let Max go full around with the hand dryer. We could really use his help right now. I felt pretty pathetic, and I couldn't even defend myself against a human. It was a miracle that I survived so many months being around creatures of the night if some rope and chair was enough to get me into a pickle. The basement door opened, and we looked over at each other, not deciding on what to do. The man came down the stairs, bag over his shoulder. It looked like he packed in a hurry. He was clearly going to grab Vicky and make a quick getaway before leaving what he was going to do with me in a mystery for a few seconds. Dropping his bag in front of her, he towards to me, his gun at his side. "You need to cut down your losses and turn yourself in. You took in 2 people in front of a diner. With all drunks around, I'm sure they have cameras. Save yourself a lot of trouble and just quit while you're ahead," I said, hoping we were not past the talking stage. We were way beyond the talking stage. "Oh, you're trying to order me around, huh? You think because you're a hot Japanese guy you could take my girl and tell me what to do?" He snarled down at me. "My mother was Korean." I corrected, and it just made his face flush up red in rage. He was beyond any kind of rational thought and would have been for a long time. I started to try and pull at the ropes, keeping my wrists together, but they were far too tight. I felt as if I had 2 working arms. I might have had a chance of overpowering this guy. He looked pale and weak from being a basement dweller.
Since you're calling the shots, I'm gonna have to let you pick what you want to happen. I can do whatever I want with her while you watch. Or I could just shoot you in the face and leave you with Vicky. What's it gonna be?
He threatened, eyes narrowing in hate towards me. Vicky started to speak at the same time as I did. She was putting on the act, pleading for him to not hurt me and how sorry she was that she was out with another guy. I was pulled at the ropes, calling him any kind of vile name I could think of, trying to keep his attention on me. I'd much rather get shot in the face than watch a friend be getting assaulted without being able to do a damn thing about it. I felt a few minutes pass and the man screamed in frustration, hands over his ears trying to drown us out. Finally, after he fired wood shot into the ceiling to shut us up. We sat, tense, waiting for him to act. My stomach twisted in stress. I'd been in a few scary situations before and had seen some terrible monsters, but I never felt so stressed and afraid before. Death was easy. Living through the regret that I couldn't save a friend was worse. The gun was pointed at my face and I felt relieved and scared at the same time. I didn't know the extent of Vicky's rules and thought maybe she could kill murderers as well, and not just human trash that force themselves on girls. The gun was trembling in his hand and he looked like he was going to be sick. The gravity of what he'd done and what he was going to do finally hit him. He could either crumple under pressure or go all in. My throat tightened as I suddenly couldn't get air to my lungs. I thought about Max and how upset he would be to have to get a new partner again. For a brief moment I wondered if it was worth putting him through that help to get Vicky. The gun went off and I thought I was dead. My mind worked slowly. The events of what just happened taking a while to catch up. My ear was burning because the gun was fired so close to my head. At the last second, the shot went to the side. Saving my brains from being splattered, my ear rang and I sat in shock of how I was saved. Vicky easily pulled her wrist free. She jumped up behind the man and her face transformed and twisted. She clammed on her jaws onto his neck, blood spraying into my face as she moved the gun aside just enough to save me. With one final crushing twisted of her jaws, she let the man fall limp and bloodied onto the floor. Her face returned to its normal pretty version. She noticed my expression of shock and horror, and looked as if it was not a normal reaction. "What?" she asked, slightly put out I wasn't keeping track of what was going on. You can't, you'll get in trouble again," I stuttered. She made a short work of my bonds and lifted me out of the chair with one hand. Because I was unable to really do much due to shock, she started to clean the blood from my face. Creatures of the night can kill a human if it's to save a different form, but no one does it because it's gross. Who'd want to save a human? None of us want to take advantage of the rules to eat whenever we want because it's wrong of us to meddle in human affairs. If you want to kill each other, go for it. So Toby, this is very important. You can't tell anyone I saved you. Her tone was low and serious. I looked over at her face that still looked human, but it gave me the chills to just look over at her. Or else, I started to ask. Or else. She said, not needing to finish the threat. Nodding, we left the basement and the man behind. She would come back later to dispose of the evidence, but right now we needed to find Max and fill him in. Turns out, he found us. When we came out of the house, Max was walking up the street, his hair in a mess. He waved at us and caught up. Vicky gave him a very brief explanation of what happened. He didn't look surprised at all. "How did you find us?" I asked him finally. "Oh, your cell phone has a tracking thing." I looked at him, wondering how that answered the question. I dropped my phone back at the diner. I know I did. Reaching inside my pocket just to double check, I found my phone inside. And pulled it out, very confused at how it got back in there. "Oh, because you can't use spells to get in contact with me just in case you get lost, they made it so your phone is always in your pocket. It's pretty immune to damage too." Max explained. He handed Vicky back her phone that he picked up, and she looked at the scratch on the corner of her case, then looked at my pink case, jealous. "I tried texting you, but I guess your hands were tied up? You couldn't answer." Max was just giving me a lot of new information.
Since when did he have a phone? When we first met, he didn't even know what a phone was. You have a cell phone?
He pulled out one from his pocket to show me. It also had a pink case to match mine.
I send you messages all the time, but I don't know how long they get through because you never answer me.
Vicky was snickering at the both of us. Turns out I blocked Max's number months ago thinking it was a spam number. I didn't have that many friends to keep in contact with me. Having a random number send me gibberish was an easy thing to mistake for spam. We figured out how to unblock Max for sending me messages. This would be very useful in the future.
Tonight was fun. Kinda lame that guy knew where Vicky was going to be and calls out this fuss. I wanted to go where the space money place is for that whipped cream cup.
Max said when we finally got our phones sorted. He means Starbucks for one of those little cups of whipped cream they give to dogs. I explained.
A puppuccino,
He further corrected.
You had like 5 pounds of whipped cream on your waffles already,
Vicky said, not following along.
It tastes very different in a cup,
Max said. Max brought up a good point. Aside from the Starbucks thing, how did that man know where Vicky was? If he was stalking her, surely she would know. Suddenly, everything came together in my mind with the click I thought those two could hear.
You used me!
I cried, looking at Vicky. Looking around, Vicky found an empty plastic bottle on the side of the road. Picking it up, she handed it to Max, telling him to go play with the bit. He nodded and tossed the bottle. It flew down the street and he went chasing after it. He was fast enough to catch it before it landed and play fetch with himself. He often did it when he got bored on the jobs.
What are you talking about?
She hissed after Max left.
You knew this guy was dangerous but couldn't do anything about it. You must have heard the rumors of a new human working as a mailman and requested us to be the ones delivering the mail today. You knew Max would suggest going out and must have told the guy where we were going. The diner had big windows, so he just saw us together the entire time, making him more and more pissed off. What I don't understand is why he never mentioned seeing Max with us. Max is invisible to humans. It's because he has those dog ears. Why do you think he makes you order things for him all the time?
If that was the case, no wonder why our waitress gave us such a strange look after ordering so much food and finishing it all.
Why would I bother doing all of that? I could have just waited until he gave me a reason to eat him.
She scoffed at my idea.
Because you were worried that he might not go for you first. You're a nice person after all and wanted to not risk another girl's safety.
Vicky stared me down at her face dark, and she seemed a bit taller than before. I took a small step, not knowing what I just got myself into.
Those are all theories without any proof. I suggest you never tell anyone of your silly little thoughts. If you do...
She grabbed my face with a large clawed hand. Her face remained somewhat normal, but her eyes glowed and mouth looked far too large. And in deep growly voice, she leaned in closer, crushing my jaw with her hand.
I'll figure out a way to rip you apart if you ever start spreading that nonsense.
Out of all the things I've seen so far, Vicky was nearly at the top of the list of things I did not want to mess with. The water bottle came flying towards us. She reached out and snatched it from the air, not even looking over. The plastic cackling and crumpling in her grip. I knew that would be the sound of my bones would make if I didn't listen to her. I nodded it and she let go, my jaw feeling bruised. Max joined us, unaware of the threats to my life. Vicky left soon after to take care of the mess she left behind in the house. Her face just then, and watching her kill a man in front of me would haunt my thoughts for a very long time. Another haunting image from the night was Max's disappointed face when we finally found a Starbucks, and it was closed.